Warning, this content may be disturbing to some audiences. Subscribe. If you dare.
I was held hostage in Iraq for over 2.5 years. Hey everybody, welcome to ANECDOSED. People ask Reddit. Former missing persons, what's your story?
Number 1.
This is my story from a family visit to Disney World when I was 5 years old. We were at Magic Kingdom about to watch the parade. I wanted to have a better look during the parade, so I climbed a nearby tree. I enjoyed a great vantage point for the 1 to 2 hour long show. Following the parade, I calmly climbed down the tree and walked towards my parents and said with a smile on my face, "Wow, that was so fun." They were not happy. Unbeknownst to me, my parents had no idea I was up there that whole time. They were apparently freaking out because they could not find me and they thought I had been kidnapped. They had notified security, who shut down the entire park. No one was allowed in or out until they found me. That whole time I had no idea every employee and security personnel in the entire park had been looking for me. I was just like, yep, I was in the tree the entire time.
Number 2.
My parents used to take me grocery shopping at Walmart with them, but since I hated walking through the aisles of boring food, they would let me chill in the electronics section. Note, I was old enough to be left alone, they just always wanted me to go with them. On this particular day, I moved away from the video game section and over to the keyboards, musical kind. I had put on a pair of headphones and took off my hoodie, and was just playing shit that I had learned in piano class. About 45 minutes after I moved, this nice Walmart employee taps me on the shoulder and asks my name. I tell her, and she grabs her radio and says, "I got him." At this point, I'm confused as shit, so I just follow her up front to see my dad looking more scared than I've ever seen him, and my mom bawling. I got to them and found out that Dad came looking for me after they had finished and couldn't find me in the video games. He looked around the electronics section and missed me by like 1 aisle. They looked at a couple other places, and then notified security. Security did a PA call for me, but since I was wearing headphones I didn't hear it. The reason it took so long to find me was because I had been wearing a black hoodie all day, and my mom couldn't remember what shirt I was wearing underneath. The point is, they had that place locked down. No one left or entered, and anyone not watching the doors was scouring the store. Needless to say, I got a Nokia brick phone by the next weekend.
Number 3.
My mom brings this one up all the time when she feels like making me feel bad. It hardly snows where I live, so when it does, it's kind of a big deal. I was 12 and so excited that we got about a foot of snow the past night, school was cancelled. I remember playing in it all morning, then thinking how I must try out my bright blue sled later with a friend on the hill nearby. We lived in a very quiet country neighborhood with little traffic. After calling my friend, I grabbed my trusty plastic sled to trudge out into the winter wonderland. It takes about 10 minutes to get to her house and we eagerly head to the hill. It's so awesome and we have fun for hours. After I was completely soaked through my garments and cheeks frozen, I decided to make my way home. In such a state of ecstasy from the fun I'd had, I hurry onward. I start walking up our drive and the snow is trashed. There are tire marks everywhere and all the ice is broken in the pool. What the heck happened while I was gone? I sure hoped everyone was okay. Well, turns out I didn't tell anyone where I was going. My parents and older brother had no idea where I had gone. They called the police and the fire department. They broke the ice in the pool thinking I had gone through the ice and died, and according to my mother they also had sent dogs trying to find me. They were pretty mad.
Number 4.
My parents lost me in an amusement park when I was 7. They had given me $20 to play a game and wanted me to give them the change when I was done. I still don't know what exactly caused me to become lost, but when I walked back my parents were gone. Now I loved my parents and all, but I was quite thrilled at being alone as I was a strangely independent child. I proceeded to blow all the money and have the greatest hour of my life. Eventually I ran into my parents, who had contacted the park security and were searching for me. Hugs then anger followed. Still the greatest memory of my childhood. It was quite surreal.
Number 5.
A few days before my 18th birthday, I was doing a college course in media, and to learn a few extra things I decided to enroll in a night class about Photoshop. I'm certain, and this is open to debate in my family, that I told them I would be attending this course and wouldn't be home at the usual time of 5 p.m. To compound matters, my phone died halfway through the day. By the end of the day at 9 p.m., I'm walking down the stairs towards the exit of the college when I see two police officers walk in and start pointing at me. My first thought is shit. What have I done? When they call my name, I know it's me they want. I go over to them when they tell me that I'm a missing person and that there is a massive police search for me. It turns out that because I'm deaf/hard of hearing, I'm considered a vulnerable person, which made the search more immediate. My parents arrive shortly after the police contact them to tell them I'm safe and sound. There's big hugs and the usual questions. My parents got me home. My nan had just got off the phone to what I assume was a liaison officer, who wanted my parents to do a TV appeal. I'm still adamant that I told them, although we don't talk about it too much as it puts them through a lot of stress.
Number 6.
I don't know if this counts as missing person. Police were looking for me, but it was for less than 3 days. When I was about 14, I started suffering from really terrible hallucinations, partly because of a bad reaction to new medication I was taking, and was suddenly and inexplicably terrified of every single human being near me. I'd suffered from anxiety for years, and I think this just amplified it. The only logical explanation my brain came up with was to go to a place where I thought I'd be safe, which was this little rocky ledge overlooking a hill in a nature reserve near my home that I used to go to as a kid. My memory is so foggy because I'm pretty sure I was having a complete nervous breakdown. I was smart enough to take my school backpack with me, which had my water bottle in it. By the time they found me, luckily my parents remembered my special place and checked it. I was severely dehydrated and hungrier than I've ever been. My parents were so embarrassed, they kept me in the hospital for a week and said it was flu.
Number 7.
I was in the military, serving on tanks. My unit was in the field for what seemed like forever. They let everyone go back into the barracks for a night to get cleaned up, but needed some guys to stay out in the field to watch the tanks. There was an alert the following morning, and I was reported as AWOL by my platoon sergeant to battalion. His exact words were, "I'm tired of him fucking everything up, and me getting in trouble for it. I'm not covering his ass this time." Imagine his surprise when the unit returned to the tanks to see me, still on guard duty, where I was assigned the night before. By my platoon sergeant. He reported me missing because I was exactly where he told me to be. As punishment for being exactly where I was told to be, I was denied my one night back in the barracks. Such is life in the military.
Number 8.
Commenter. I was abducted from a shopping cart while my mother was shopping. I was probably 2 months old at the time. My mother went to grab something off of the shelf, and when she turned around I was gone. Of course I don't remember it since I was pretty young, but my mother said it was a pretty scary moment. Once she saw that I was missing, she ran up to the checkout lane to report that her child had been abducted. Luckily, someone knew something was up when they saw a female VA patient walking out with a baby and was able to chase her out the door and get the make of the vehicle she got into. After about 5 minutes, the police caught up with her and got me back. She's still around town, and every time we see her, my parents always joke about how she's actually my real mother and they were the ones who kidnapped me. Person B. Pardon my ignorance, but what is a VA patient? Also, what happened to her? Did she get any jail time for child abduction? Person C. Most likely Veterans Affairs. So imagine an old crazy veteran with a small baby.
Number 9.
Former custodial kidnapping victim here. My parents separated when I was around 2 years old, and my mother's lawyer believed that it would look better to the court if she agreed to allow weekend visitation rights. One weekend, she dropped me off on a Friday night and returned on Sunday afternoon to pick me up, and my biological father had taken me away to parts unknown. She learned about a week later that he'd taken me about halfway down the east coast of the US, we're in the Northeast. He had me for a couple of weeks before he returned with me, but refused to actually return me to my mother. Mom's lawyer filed paperwork so that my mother had full custody and an order of protection for my mother and me, but through a bunch of legal F-ups, bio dad never actually served the paperwork. So, the police legally couldn't do anything to return me, even though I was about 4 miles from my mother's house, and she was visiting me nightly. After a couple of weeks of being out of my mother's house, bio dad decided to skip town with me again, this time crossing the country with me. It was about 2 weeks before my mother found out where I was. This was in the late 70s, so there was no digital trail to follow, no caller ID, etc., and even then, they were only able to determine which state because he would call collect every couple of days and my grandfather asked where the call was coming from. Several months after that, through sheer luck, they got an actual residential address after finding out that a pediatrician in that state had contacted my pediatrician for my medical records. I was still gone for another few months before my mother was able to bring me home. I was gone for about 10 months or so.
Number 10.
Commenter. My biological mother lost custody of myself and my siblings, so she decided to move to the USA in secret, forging the necessary paperwork to get us out of Europe. That was 2001, and she proceeded to raise us in the lie that our father had abandoned us, and that he was a hateful monster. I was on the missing persons list until a private investigator at my father's expense found us. I was missing officially for 8 years. Person B. What was it like finding out about all the lies? Commenter. It caused damage. I had to reassess everything ever. I'm still recovering mentally. The woman has done so much harm to so many.
Number 11.
In 1975 I was a 2-year-old American child living in Iran. This was before the fall of the Shah and America was friendly with Iran. My father was an independent contractor training the Iranian military how to fly helicopters. We lived in a beautiful home in the expat part of Tehran. I was a tow-headed white toddler with blue eyes, which was a rarity in those parts. One afternoon while my father was at work and my brothers were supposedly at school, my mother decided to go to market with her friends. She decided to leave me with a trusted maid, but this was rare. She had developed an excellent relationship with our family and my mother finally trusted her to watch me alone. My mother returned several hours later to an empty home and went into a panic. She called my father, all the other expats, and the embassy to launch a search for me. My 2 older brothers were supposed to be in school, but had skipped hanging out at the market, smoke hash, and eat pistachios with the locals. They noticed our maid and saw that she was carrying a child. They approached her and saw that it was me. She was talking to a man they didn't know. My brothers confronted her, she screamed, put me on the ground, and ran away. This caused a commotion, and she was captured by the market security, similar to the moral police. Come to find out that she was talking to a slaver attempting to sell me into some strange sex trade looking for blonde hair and blue eyes. The police took her and we never heard anything about her again. I was saved from sex trafficking by my delinquent brothers. Make sure to share your personal story in the comments below and have the opportunity to be featured in a future video. Also, if you like these topics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to continue seeing more content like this every day. See you next time.